Securities offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through CWM, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, is under separate ownership from any other named entity. Carson Partners, a division of CWM, LLC, is a nationwide partnership of advisors. This is The Way to Wealth, with host Scott Ford, a jiu-jitsu fighting, woodworking, beekeeping entrepreneur who is also the managing director, partner, and wealth advisor of Carson Wealth. Financial freedom is the goal, and clarity and simplicity is how we'll get there. Let's get to it. This is Way to Wealth.
Hello, and welcome back to the Way to Wealth podcast, where we're all about making money simple, allowing you the freedom to focus on living now and living fully now. Super excited today to have a dear friend, a brother back, Garrett Gunderson, on the podcast. So welcome back to the Way to Wealth, Garrett.
What's up? This isn't my normal office. I'm doing a comedy show in Boston tonight, and this is one of my really close friends' office. So my lighting, as I see, isn't as good, but we'll make the content just as good. Yeah.
All good, man. As Rich calls you, the GQ Jesus, you're doing fine. I'm in my home office and I'm on my treadmill actually, but I'm not walking on it. I just finished doing that, but not promising that doesn't happen as we go. So look, the way to wealth, and you know it intimately, Garrett, it's all about making money simple. So the way is living now, the two is the team, the wealth's the acronym or the foundation. But what's this all about? Well, why make money simple? So for me, it's all about health, wealth, wisdom, and happiness. And one of the things I wanted to just talk a little bit about today is experiences, because when you think of health, wealth, wisdom, and happiness, under wisdom, talk about three things. And the first is living now. So that's the way and way to wealth. Like, let's live now, because most are just chasing their tail, investing money for 30 years from now, living life like, oh, if I climb this ladder, all of this stuff. And it's like, all you have is the present moment. Let's fully live now. So that's the first thing under wisdom. And then second, I say experiences under wisdom. And the reason I say that is because I think that leads to wisdom. But before I go too far there, what are your thoughts on experiences when you think of wisdom?
Well, there's so many things that I've told people. It's not to be explained, only to be experienced. So when you experience love, it's different than hearing about it. When you experience gratitude, it's different than just hearing about it. When my wife and my kids went to Italy for 63 days, it was an experience that transformed our life because it created enough space for me to evaluate, what do I really want and who am I really? I thought I was my business. So I identified so much of my happiness or sadness with what was happening in the business that could go up and down over times, whether it was someone wasn't fully happy or something didn't work or someone, we needed to get rid of them or they left. And it was like this, it created a lot of like drama. And by creating that experience of being with my family every single day, just having a cappuccino, a 4-hour dinner, swimming in the pool, having no agenda at times, it opened up an entire world where there was a renaissance for me of being a hobbyist. All of a sudden, I started to learn how to make lattes and pour overs. I became a whiskey sommelier. I started shooting my bow for the first time. And because what it did is it just started to create an experience where I wasn't in the noise of the world. I was able to listen to myself. So, there's things that you and I have done that I'm like, hey, brother, I don't know how to say it other than you got to experience it. It's an experience.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll add to that. Garrett's the real deal on a latte. He's made me plenty of them and they're killer. So yeah, you learned well. So it makes me think. And the other thing of experiences, you and your wife, Carrie, have been here with me and my wife, Angie. And, while here, we did some things. Like one of the things was friction fire, right? In the garage, it was like January. So we did it inside and we learned to make friction fire. And then we also—
So much easier than a bow staff, by the way. Staff. I made a bow staff last year and tried to make a fire with it. Totally struggled through it. But when you do the friction, it was infinitely easier. So efficiency is something I appreciate. So if I don't have a match, I'd rather do the friction thing any day of the week.
But isn't that classic though? Because this is an example of experiences. If you didn't experience it and do something different and something new, who knew? Like, it's the first time I did it. And then these plastic bags you get from the grocery store, we learned how to make them into a rope, that you literally could probably climb out of a window on. They're that strong once set up properly. So just stuff like that. Who would have thought of that last year for the first time? And you know this, I'm a huge archery advocate and whitetail hunter, and I made my own bow off of a hickory that was dead and fell. And so, you know, it's just, I don't know. I'm not hunting with it. I'm not ready for that, but definitely I can shoot with it. I've showed you that. And it's like experiences to me create wisdom.
Right. Because we have, as you learn one skill set, you do get confidence to learn other skill sets. And I also just think when you're doing things that are a hobby, it's something that we've lost that art in humanity because we're busy. And when we're busy, we crowd wisdom out because we're too much caught in routines that lead to ruts. And I think that one of the things is when we can lose track of time, and when you do something that has nothing to do with money, it's just nourishing to our soul, it actually exponentially grows what we could do in the world of money, because now we're refreshed, we're rejuvenated, we're recharged, we have new insights. And you and I use this term download. Like I'll just, I'll be in the middle of just, I like to build things in the garage of the cabin because I didn't really grow up using my hands that way. I used my mind. I did a car detailing thing, but I didn't build things that you physically saw. And in that process, I just had good thinking time. I was alone with my thoughts. Another reason why I like hunting is because I spend hours in silence, which I normally wouldn't do. Otherwise, I'd have a podcast on, or I'd be, talking to someone. And I think that we don't spend enough time with ourselves, and therefore we don't even know who we are. Society starts to deem who we are. We become our stuff. We become our things. We become, our obligations and our busyness and our task list. And it seems almost counterintuitive, but we're both in strategic coach. And I remember Bab Smith, that's the president, Dan's wife, said, you need more free days. And I was like, I don't have time for free days. She goes, you'll make more. And I took from like probably having only the holidays off and working every weekend to taking 170-ish days off the next year and having $1,000 a day that I took off more income than the previous year, which seems counterintuitive, but we have to treat ourselves as our greatest asset. We have to invest in ourselves, not just money, but time and experience. And that experience leads to something that's an inner knowing. And that's why you say wisdom. It's not something I read in a book. I read a book and then remember 3% of it and not apply most of it. But there's something about the experience that is a lost art that if it was to remain as a priority in humanity, we would first off start seeing leisure as a worthwhile activity. We would start to have more energy over time, and we'd escape this consumerism trap that more is better. The more things I have, the more things I buy, the more things I do, the more, but the doing isn't usually doing for ourselves. It's only doing for others. And people think it's selfish to do things for themselves, but it's not selfish. It actually leads to you becoming a more valuable human being in the world, because the more you know yourself, the more in tune you are with yourself, the more comfortable you are with yourself, you start to invite abundant thinking into your life.
I love it. I couldn't agree more, Garrett. It makes me think of a couple of things. One, I'll add a friend and used to be mentor of mine, Tom Dorsey, had Dorsey Wright and Associates, sold to NASDAQ. Really good human being in Virginia, unique company, small, just a unique, good guy. And one of the things he would do is he would teach at the local university there in Virginia and some courses. And then when he stopped doing that, he set up his own family office. And what would happen, students graduating, they loved him, he's he's a lovable guy and good dude. And so they would want to meet with him, and they'd meet with him and they're like, Tom, what should I do? Now I got this education. What should I do? He said, I'll give you 3 things. First, go to China and teach English for a year. Second, go to Australia and bartend for a year. Third, go to Europe and backpack for a year. After those 3 years, come back and see me. I'll pay you whatever you want for whatever it is you want to do. And I'm like, that is such solid advice. What is he telling them? He's telling them to broaden themselves, get these unique experiences. And with that, they're investing in themselves and they're going to be so valuable. So I share that with my kids. I've shared that same story because they're like, Dad, what should I be doing? And I never tell them, and nor do I want to tell them what they should be doing. I'm like, have lots of experiences. You're young, do lots of things. And through the lots of things, you're going to find out and learn like more of who you are, what you're passionate about, and all the other things will fall in place. So yeah, spot on.
Did you know that I went and taught English for 3 months in Korea when I was 18 years old?
You literally just told me that our last conversation, which was not that long ago. It's the first time I heard it.
So that changed my life because I was scared of flying, first off, and especially flying over the ocean. I had this terror around that. So I had to confront that fear. I went with my best friend and we went over there and we had to just we didn't know much. We didn't know that many people. We knew one person and we just had to figure out work over time. And I was doing everything from teaching kindergartners to Daewoo executives. It was a wide range. And I'm in a big city where I'm not from a big city at the time. I was going to school in Cedar City, Utah, with 20,000 people in that town. From Price, Utah, 12,000 people in that town. And now all of a sudden I'm in a major city learning how to ride the subway, eating completely different food, trying to figure out like how to even make this work and make money while I was there. And it really did transform things for me. When I came home, I was a little bit more quiet, a little bit more reserved, a little bit more thoughtful. And it took me a minute to kind of reacclimate. But it helped me face fears. It helped me build confidence. It helped me do something that was very unique. And it also just helped me completely appreciate my family. I missed driving to my grandparents' house and love this drive that's an 1.5-hour drive in the canyon that was beautiful. And I missed family dinners. And I missed, all of those kind of things. But so it gave me a new level of appreciation, which again, it was an experience. I could read about appreciation, but it's about experiencing it.
100%, man. Yeah. You said something earlier about the ability of taking time off and what it does to work because of that time off. And so what hit me was, yes, and how that ties to our industry of wealth management. And so this, like the way to wealth is built for 3 things. The first and foremost is time and space to get to the real bottom of the iceberg, the real agenda, where most in our profession just hear enough to hear a potential solution that they can launch, and they launch into solution. That never ends well. And I don't care if you're working with an attorney, a tax person, they'll put you in all kinds of things to save taxes now, because that's what that's their go-to move. They're not hearing you. So what's needed is space and margin in our lives, meaning personal, and space and margin in our finances and business, so that you can get to the real issue, the real agenda. Then the go-to moves are easy to go to, but like hardly anyone operates like that. So anyway, that connection came when you were talking about that space and margin to get clear in your personal life. Yeah, you need it in your finances and business as well. And it makes me think about Ray Dalio, the largest hedge fund in the world, and his book Principles. And he has said this so many times, like they're like, what do you credit your success to? And he's like, one thing. Everyone's like, okay, what's that? He's like, I've meditated 20 minutes in the morning and 20 minutes in the evening for, I forget that, it's crazy, 20, 40 years, whatever it is. He said, that's it. And I'm like, wow, space and margin to gain clarity.
Yeah. And so I think people don't trust themselves enough, and they look for too much outside counsel about who they are. Like, that's super helpful to make something efficient with learning and finance. It's not helpful in discovering your purpose sometimes, it's like what you said to your kids, like, go out and experience, go out and figure this out for yourself. Don't do something just to appease me or what I think might be great. You've got to discover what you think is great, so you're engaged, and that's going to bring a different level of passion, which fuels the energy behind being able to be resilient, being able to enjoy things, being able to be fulfilled. And so, who would have thought comedy would have been my path? I already had a successful business. I already knew what I was doing there. I've been writing books in that space for quite some time, and I found a way to merge money and funny, right? And it's been a lot of fun, and it's been challenging. I noticed, like, when I would do 10 minutes, it's easy to just crush 10 minutes because I'd practiced it for 2 years. But then it was like, okay, now I'm going to do an 1.5 hours. You go through different experiences where there's wait staff coming, or the crowd might get tired for a second because of what time it is. And you have to kind of learn how to navigate that, which then builds a new confidence, which is a new experience, which then all of a sudden I can write much faster than I used to. And I know how to test differently. So a lot of times I think that our intuition isn't always convenient. And when it's not convenient, we go, yeah, but maybe one day, someday. And it's so easy to put that off. And that's why I like to say, well, what if what you're passionate about, you just made a hobby to start with? What if, it was a hobby. Comedy was a hobby. It was just a way to go out and have a little bit of fun. And then it continued to expand. It continued to show up. It continued to grow. And I feel like if anyone could be encouraged to discover that, I know people that go, I don't know what I would do. That's how long they've been sacrificing their life for everyone else, for their kids, for their parents, for their employees, for whatever it is, that they lose their own sense of self. And that lowers our power. And that lowers our productivity, and ultimately over time will lower the profitability and fulfillment.
Truth, man. Two things come to me. One is, I won't go too far down this rabbit hole, but I'll say it. And that is, I'll say it, our education system. So our education system is teaching you what to learn. Memorize this. Here's this data. Here's the test. Memorize this data so that you can take this test. Not teaching you how to learn, not teaching you how to critically think, trust your own inner guidance and intuition, and be able to go with that. So that's part of what's going on there. And it's like, yeah, I won't go too far down that rabbit hole, but I think that's certainly part of it. And we're so easily prone to follow someone else's goals, objectives, ambitions, chasing money. So it's like let me do this. Oh, let me go do, and you have to be careful that all that doing is not someone else's goals, objectives, and priorities. And it was Steve Jobs in his commencement speech, I think at Stanford, that's like, one of the benefits of having this cancer that's terminal is I could care less what anyone else thinks about what I'm doing. I'm being me, and I'm doing exactly what I feel like I want to do with my time left. And I'm like, yeah, and let's not have to get that sick to be able to do that. One of the things you mentioned I want to chat about, Garrett, is just what you're up to. So you talked about comedy. I'd love you to tell the group, what's up with that? What are you doing? What are you up to? And add some color to that.
I wrote a comedy special called The American Dream. Drop the D, right? People have lost the dream, and they've lost. So it's like, here's all these false beliefs and notions that if we could laugh at, we could learn from. And so we filmed a special April 15th, got these amazing Emmy-winning people behind it, which is just such an incredible collaboration, considering I'm really kind of a rookie starting in 2017. And it's just been this wild ride. But then I'm now on a 16 city tour this year. And then we've already been getting asked to do more and more dates next year. So I'll be doing more dates next year. But I'm out there helping people laugh and learn. I just did Fort Worth. And at the end, I just gave everybody a book and signed a book to everybody. So yeah, they laughed, but then I'm hoping that helps them put the pieces together and inspires them. Because look, I've written a lot of books, but I'm like, how many people read a book cover to cover, especially a nonfiction book? But a 56-minute comedy set, now that's something people typically sit through, and we learn 3 times more when we laugh. And I want to be like the court jester of finance, go out there and say the things that not a lot of people are able to say. And even if they say it, a lot of people don't want to hear it, but then have them go, that's a good point. And so I'm just out there doing that to help reach the masses, because I feel like really, really wealthy people get good advice, and the middle class is going to have a bigger struggle with what's happening with quantitative easing and all this, what's going to happen with inflation. And I think it's going to get more and more difficult. So I'm saying, well, how do I reach them so that they can be more responsible without being burdened? How can I reach them where they can have the courage to look at something they normally wouldn't? And how do I reach them in a topic that you and I have seen a lot of dry, drab speakers, and make this much more accessible? So, and it's a blast. I mean, I'm not going to lie. This is a ton of fun, Scott. I love telling jokes, and it's been absolutely one of the hardest things I've done, doing 15 cities as a newbie. And at the same time, one of the most rewarding things. I feel like it's a small miracle every time that I show up and the crowd is full. I mean, it is crazy when I'm looking out there. I'm like, wow, we pulled it off again. And you've been really helpful telling people about it, and had some people show up to my shows and be huge supporters. So it's a total blast. But I really don't just want it to be, as my friend Patrick Gentempo says, a jacuzzi experience where it's like, yeah, that was fun, and then you forget about it. I want it to be something that will facilitate lasting change. And I'm telling you, it's crazy when you commit to a vision that you don't even know how to accomplish, because things start showing up for you, because you put out that attention with intention, and then people start looking for you, and then people start showing up in big ways. I've learned more than anything how to receive and ask for support. I mean, I'm really clear. Like most people, if you ask them for something, they don't know what to ask for. Like, how can I help you? I don't know. But I'm going, hey, I've got a show coming up in Miami. I got a show coming up in Philadelphia. I've got my friend John Rulin. He found two other people. They bought out the entire show in St. Louis. He goes, I will use all my social capital to help you out because I believe in what you're doing. And when people start getting it, which they don't always understand, how are we going to learn through comedy? But as we've interviewed people afterwards, as the word's starting to spread, it's really taking hold. And I just see this exponentially growing.
And you're good at it, man. Yeah. So, I mean, and let me tell you, so I've done presentations, plenty of stages and all that. And that's one thing, to stand up and do comedy. Kudos to you, man. And you're good at it. So you've done well. So it's exciting to see you do that and embrace this new transformation that you're on. What would you say, without jumping to the punchline of your show? So don't have you say too much, but what's the ultimate reason you're doing this? What's the ultimate message?
I'm here to restore love to humanity. That's my mission. Not that it's a mission I do on my own, but I'm hoping to be a catalyst to spark other people. And the way I look at it is, I'm here to plant a seed of hope, connection, and expression. And expressing through comedy for me, but anyone else finding their hobby, and have someone go, like, I'll tell you, the number one thing that people said when I went to DC and did the show is they said that was inspiring. It was my least funny show I've done to this point, but people are like, I'm inspired. You're leading the way. So I'm really hoping it inspires people to say, if this dude from a small coal mining town, 4th generation coal miner, who had never done comedy until August of 2017, can film a special, get it on a streaming service, and fill 15 cities, and then already have 2 more cities people are asking, 3 more cities people are saying that they'll fill next year, 4 more booked next year, that will hopefully have people be like, because most people are scared of stand-up. It's me and a microphone in the crowd, and they're scared because we haven't been trained how to connect with people. And the problem is, to be a comedian, you have to be present with people from the stage and be adaptable based upon what's happening in that room. And it's helping me grow as an individual and stretch as an individual. But think about it, when someone laughs, it means we made a connection. We agreed to something that was either surprising and like, oh, that's a good point, or just so out there, you're like, and you forget about your troubles. You're not worried when you're laughing, and it feels good. It releases endorphins. And so I'm here to connect with humanity, and comedy is one of those things. I think music is like that. I think other performances like that. And so we're going to use all those elements over time. But for now, the start and the catalyst is comedy.
I love it. I couldn't support it more. And, look, and the way to wealth, healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy. So, and you also know what it's all about. So when you think of healthy, wealthy, wise, and happy, I talk about wealthy and that, that whole economic independence and what that means and how to get there. That's the way to wealth. Got that done, right? We can implement it.
And I'm economically independent, which created the space to truly dive all the way in, knowing that my family would eat the same food, live at the same quality of life, because my wife came to the Chicago show, sold out show, but there's only 180 people in the room at $47 a ticket. And she's like, usually I go speak, I get paid 25 grand, and we do, a lot of business because of the people that hear me speak. And she's like, well, this isn't quite the same as before. I'm like, yes, but it's a startup. It's new and it's exciting, and it's leading to a much bigger vision. And I had to just take the first step, which was scary to get on the first stage and do stand-up for 4 minutes and 20 seconds with a bunch of friends, not knowing how's this going to go. But it was exhilarating. No drug could give me that level of exhilaration, because it was a drug of connection and overcoming of fear and being more expressed. And so I'm hoping that I can lead the way for people to find their own voice and to be seen and to be heard, and to go out there and enjoy life.
Yeah, well, you are. So I'm gonna lift you in it. And when I think of that wealthy piece, that economic independence, as you talked about, leads to enough. That's the second point under wealth. When you know you have enough, you're wealthy, no matter what your bank account says. And then lastly is love. This is things that all the things money can't buy and death can't take away. It's called love. That's what the whole game is. And so I know that's the root of your message. It aligns exactly with what I'm up to. So it's
that's
great.
That's why we're so aligned, brother. On the
that's
same
it.
mission.
That's it. That's why we're doing what we're doing. So we'll just continue on. One more thing to just talk about briefly, Garrett, and that is Family Constitution. Look, this is actually launching. We have a launch called the Legato Family Framework. We're going to officially launch it November 17th. I'm drafting an email as we speak, or a team is helping me do that. And one of the things I'm talking about is my good friend Garrett Gunderson started the Family Constitution, handed those reins to me to take it further and to simplify it. And that's exactly what I'm up to. So any comments or things you would want to just mention about Family Constitution as we wrap?
What I love is with Family Constitution, whether you're a single person that isn't married with and has no kids, or whether you're a billionaire, it's the core philosophy that helps us to understand what are the lessons and principles in life that we learn, and capture those lessons so they can be handed down to anyone that we come in contact with. But look, if I wasn't married with 2 kids, going through my Family Constitution helps me to understand myself better. And it helps other people to understand me too, because I could leave behind the most important book I've ever written, which is 38 pages that say, this is what had created a workable life. And I want to leave this as a signpost for others. Now, because I do have a wife and kids, that becomes the thing that governs my estate plan and my trust in a more dynamic way. So we can utilize people's brain power versus just legalese that says do this regardless. So it allows even my heirs to start picking up a pen and writing and start evolving that, so that now we have something that, when we look at Jesus's life, and then we look at the New Testament, that's something that has taught so many people so much because it was captured. But what about in your own family, those things that are so important to capture and pass on that help to keep the money being meaningful? But more importantly, it's about contribution. It's about the who you are as a human being and what your intentions are and what things you learn from, so that the people don't have to make all the same mistakes again. And so I think it's so beautiful, because I didn't know what was going to happen with it until I met you. And I was like, oh, now it's going to be simplified. Now it's going to be so dialed in, because you know how to listen, you know how to create and simplify those things. And I'm really excited to see where you take it, because as you know, I'm already telling people about you at every turn and sending people your way to help with this.
Yeah, we're on the same mission. So it's the reason. And so I'll wrap with this, and that is we use the word download. So I did get this as a download, and it's the infinite entrepreneur that came to me, and it's an infinity symbol that you'll see. And the beauty is it's 4 things, and it starts with the Family Constitution. It starts with this family legacy work of getting real clear on your mission, on your values, on your traditions, on your colors, on your logos, all these things that are meaningful to you that you just said. And then with that, it ends with the structure. How do you set it up, which is the actual Constitution, that preamble to the trust. And with that, now you can go to living your life because you have clarity. Now you can go to how to structure your finances because you're clear on what it's all about for you and your family. Now you can go to having a sustainable business. But that's the best starting point. So I couldn't be more passionate about where we're headed with this. Obviously, you're a big part of it, not only the original creator of it, but we'll continue to work together. I don't have to have any of the answers. I just want to get to the best answers so that we can serve more people to get to what this game's all about. So lastly, Garrett, where can people find you at if they want to learn more, check out your shows, et cetera?
Well, look, and even if we don't have all the answers, we're willing to collaborate. And even if we don't have all the answers in the moment, we know that the question always is the same for us. What would love do? How could we lead with love? How do we choose love in this moment? And that helps us to evolve in a profound way versus stay stuck in something that might be limited. We're not saying who's right, we're saying what's right. And we want to continually be on that search for truth. And that's why we're collaborating at this level. And my website's GarrettGunderson.com. You can learn about the comedy tour. You can see what dates are left and the updated ones that we'll be adding to that as well. But I've got Miami coming up. So hopefully someone can come to Miami or Philadelphia, depending on if you want cold or warm. You can pick between those two. I think almost every other date is completely sold out at this point. So there are a few tickets left, depending on when you watch this.
Thanks, brother. Enjoyed it as always. I have nothing to add with your closing comment. That's what this game is all about. Thanks for joining the Way to Wealth podcast. We'll catch you next week on the next episode.
The opinions voiced in Way to Wealth with Scott Ford, Managing Director, Partner, and Wealth Advisor of Carson Wealth, are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. All indices are unmanaged and may not be invested into directly. Investing involves risk, including possible loss of principal. No strategy assures success or protects against loss. To determine what may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, financial, or tax advisor prior to investing. Guests on Way to Wealth are not affiliated with CWM LLC or Cetera Advisor Networks LLC. Legato Family is not affiliated with Cetera Advisor Networks LLC or CWM LLC. Carson Wealth, 19833 Leitersburg Pike, Suite 1, Hagerstown, Maryland, 21742.